Maryland leaders remain concerned about uncertainty surrounding federal funding and the potential impacts to the state's bottom line. But some critics argue placing blame on the White House now could just be laying the groundwork for future decisions. At the end of this year's legislative session, leadership in the State House had a clear message.
In the face of catastrophic cuts from the Trump administration, we passed a budget that solves our immediate fiscal challenges.
These actions were necessary and essential to stabilize our state's finances while safeguarding the critical services that many vulnerable Marylanders absolutely rely on.
At a time when the White House seems more interested in carving out space for billionaire tax cuts than helping regular people, Maryland is mobilizing in support of our workers and in support of our middle-class families.
Turning their attention down the road to Washington, Governor Wes Moore and other lawmakers say the state's budget plan now is a reflection of the cuts and instability from the federal government. Governor Moore leaning on the impact of tariffs as the state raises taxes for Marylanders.
Especially when you consider what's happening on the federal level, the fact that this state can say the governor's making sure that he's holding firm on his promise of getting the middle class a tax cut, I think people can and people do feel thankful for that.
People will still see the headlines with $1.6 billion in tax increases, though. Do you think that they really will be thankful for a government who is taxing them more, given the fact that we are seeing all of the other federal actions?
I think you are watching a state government that is giving the middle class a tax cut in this moment. I think you are going to watch a state government that's about to do the largest amount of cuts to a Maryland state budget that we have seen literally in over a generation.
Those cuts the governor talks about could have been deeper, according to Republicans.
At the end of the day, the Republicans came up with an amendment when we talked about the budget that would have said no new taxes and we could balance the structural deficit. And unfortunately, the Democrats have just decided not to agree with that.
The budget plan did make some cuts, like more than $100 million to the University System of Maryland. The state is putting hiring on pause, but not cutting jobs. And state employees are still getting a cost of living raise, while other money was shifted from one fund to another to land in a balanced budget.
You know, he's played fast and furious with some of the facts.
David Brinkley led former Governor Larry Hogan's budget. During an interview on Fox 45 News In Depth, Brinkley says the cuts Annapolis made this year do not deal with the future funding problems.
The previous, the O'Malley administration had borrowed money from the local income tax day fund, which we had fully paid back. And this time in this budget, he did the same gimmicks in some different areas. In this case, he used a strategic energy investment fund. He went back to the local income tax fund. And while he raised $1 billion in taxes, which the state is not going to get any revenue unless they go into the middle class. That's just foolhardy for anybody to buy into that false premise. They then went back and harvested an awful lot of monies.
While economic forecasts show Maryland is at the highest risk of impact due to federal workforce layoffs and funding cuts out of all the states in the country, lawmakers started this legislative session with a budget deficit that was projected before Donald Trump took the oath of office.
Well, I think the governor is not going to blame the legislature. He's not going to blame the General Assembly, but I think he should.
Richard Vatz, a Towson University rhetoric professor, says blaming Trump for the current budget situation is not the answer for the problems at hand.
You can always blame other people, but that doesn't make for good governing. It makes for good campaigning, successful campaigning, but the consistent urge the governor has to blame somebody else is faulty.
And now all eyes are on this fall, with the special session hinging on what happens at the federal level. Hey, I'm Mackenzie Frost. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Check out Fox Baltimore on all of our social media pages for more videos just like this.